Trading Nut, episode 106.
And they'll kind of induce traders to make it look like it's breaking out. So they'll get traders to buy. And what market makers are just doing is they're creating more liquidity. They're getting traders to go in, buy that pair. And then once there's a lot of volume, they'll basically pull price away.
The market's going to do something. Your job is not to fight it.
The market never, ever runs away. It's always there.
That personal diary of trading will make you a much better trader than...
I could be right about the direction, but wrong about the trade.
Don't focus on the monetary side.
Trying to make too much money on a trade is what I have seen killed every trader.
Your losses offer you some of the greatest insight you can find into your mistakes.
Relax, learn the process.
Candlestick pattern trading is a freaking trap.
Don't be in a rush to become a millionaire.
Let the market tell you what the market wants to tell you.
This podcast is not financial, trading, or investing advice of any kind. What's up, traders? Welcome to another installment of the Trading Nut Podcast. I'm your host, Cam Hawkins, and today we've got Nick Natrona here on the show. Now, Nick has got a unique story to tell us. He discovered this thing called the Market Maker's Method, if you've ever heard of it. Secrets that helped him flip 3,000 to over six figures in 8 months. Now, you're going to hear that story today, along with the trials and tribulations that got him there. He also has created a platform off the back of what he learned over the 6+ years that he's been trading. He's only a young guy, but he's been doing it for a while. And you can get access to that. There should be a link underneath this video or the podcast, depending on where you're listening to this story that Nick's about to tell us. Now, guys, do remember, talking about offers, there is another last ever offer that is gone now. It is gone for my Robot Builders Club. That is it. I am done with offers on the Robot Builders Club. It's now just going to be, if you want to come in, learn how to build robots, let me know. Or don't even let me know. You just got to go on there, have a look, have a play with the free robot I give away, do the free training that I give away as well, and see if it's right for you, see if it's something you want to learn how to do. Trust me, this thing is a game changer because it makes your trading way more automated. Even if you're not going to trade fully automated, there's also so many avenues you can open up around being able to, like one of the clients that I've got at the moment, Scott, he created a robot that does well over the last 5 years, and he's got it up there on mql.com, and he's selling that there for, I think, a couple of $100. So a few of those, you make the money back on the course anyway. So there's him. There's also Nathan, who you've seen featured on the show, created an entire 7-figure business out of this, just building robots, which only takes a few minutes or hours when you start getting going with this thing. So guys, worthwhile checking out if you're interested in that sort of stuff. At least check out the free training over there and grab the robot that I'm giving away with it as well. Now, just to give you an update, we're starting the new year here. I've been on holiday. I've had a fantastic week away. I counted it up. I did 9 swimming spots from river pools, like really cold river pools, to lakes, the biggest lake in New Zealand. Surf beaches. I think we might have done 4 different surf beaches. This place called Cathedral Cove. Go and check it out. Amazing place. It's, I think, voted one of the top 2 beaches in the world. So go and check that out. Also, go and the other thing I did was, that's right, it was a harbour, like a wharf sort of swimming area as well. Just amazing. I love the water, so this is just perfect for me. Also perfect for my cold water therapy as well, which I'll tell you what, I've been doing tons of that over the summer here, and it's been fantastic. So, guys, I know if you're in lockdown, you're probably going, oh man, if only I could do that, get out of my house. Look, we're just a bit lucky here at the moment. I don't know what's going to happen with this COVID thing, but I've got a funny feeling we'll be going in lockdown at some point in the future this year as well. Now, what's happened in the meantime on Trading Nut? Merch is back on track, so there was a bit of a stall there. I thought I was going to get it out the door before the end of the year, but I didn't, unfortunately. It's back on track though, along with a new Trading Nut logo, so stay tuned to keep an eye out for that. I've got a ton of new things that I want to try out this year. One thing that I think, and I mentioned it before, I think is going to be great for everyone involved, listeners, traders alike. So that's a whole lot of stuff going on here. I'm not going to spoil it now. Just stay tuned, stay subscribed, and then you'll find out about it in the future. So without further ado, do remember we've got that offer here with Nick. And also, funnily enough, I should mention that Nathan, who I mentioned before, is now sponsoring the Trading Nut podcast. So you're going to hear that coming up in the middle of the podcast. So stay tuned for that. All right, guys, here we go. Interview with Nick, let's do it. Whether you're a struggling trader or a profitable trader, our sponsor, City Traders Imperium, are offering you the chance to become a fully backed Forex trader. That's right, get coached and funded with CTI today. All right, folks, here we are on Trading Up. We've got Nick Natrona here on the show from Markets Makers Method. Welcome to the show, Nick, all the way from over there in Florida, where you guys are in the midst of, is it another lockdown, I believe?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, no, we are we're not on lockdown right now.
Oh, wow. It seems to be chopping and changing depending on what part of the world you're in. I can't keep track of it anymore. How are things over there anyway?
Things are awesome. Beautiful weather, obviously. It's one of the reasons why I moved over here from Chicago is the weather. It's relaxing. Bought myself a condo here, so just relaxing and preparing for this trading week.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of people do make that move just for the warmer weather. I know a friend of mine was over there, or lives over there, and he was stuck in Buffalo, and he was desperate to get to Florida, and he couldn't get a job there in the end. He got closer. He ended up in Kentucky. Now, look, today we're going to jump into your trading story before we hear a little bit about a tool that you've created that other traders might be able to benefit from. It looks like a really nicely thought out way to help improve somebody's trading and save them a whole bunch of time. So we'll jump into that in a video, and we'll shoot that after the show. But today we want to hear all about your trading, how you got into trading first. And so do you want to start off with that story?
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Yeah, so I just actually turned 22, so I'm still quite young to a lot of people's eyes, I guess, but I don't know about that. Age is just a number to me. But yeah, I started quite early on when I was still in high school, and I knew that that going to like a regular 9-to-5 and wanted to be my own boss. So at that point, I was just looking for my passion, what I wanted to do. I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always knew that I was gonna start a business or do something. So I was actually playing tennis as well, and one of my tennis coaches was a trader himself, actually. So that's actually how I initially got into Forex, because he was a Forex trader. But that's kind of where it all started, and then I was, it was in high school. My parents were overseas, so I was living with a friend, and at that point, I'm young and got right into Forex. And from there, just studying, Googling everything, YouTubing, it was my whole education journey that, eventually led me to here. But there's a lot of ups and downs, blew some accounts, lost money just like most people do initially. And, just not giving up and just keep going at it, because, I've met successful traders. I knew that there's a lot of successful traders out there. It's just, I gotta find the right information, the information that these guys know. And yeah, that's really the past 6 years of my career is just always been bettering myself. But it's not really recently in the past 2 years where I took my trading to the next level. I was able to go full time and just continue on this path. And it is truly my passion, and that's why I kind of just innovating in this industry now. I've made my money and all that, and I have all that set. So now I'm just really trying to better the industry for the new traders, trying to innovate in this industry and just trying to make it a lot better, get rid of all the scams, and just it's I have a passion for this industry, so it's really personal to me. So yeah, I mean, that's.
I want to dive back into some of the story. So your tennis coach. I mean, was this guy a good trader, or was he a professional trader outside of being a tennis coach?
I actually, I had to ask him just because I always need to know this number. I was like, so what kind of numbers are you trading? Are you doing? And yeah, he said that most he did was 30 lots, and he says that he consistently trades like 25, 30 lots a trade. So that's, I did the math there, and if you're catching just like, few hundred pips a week or even 100 pips a week. It's pretty good numbers. So that's when I realized, I was like, all right, I'm going into this industry.
And so was he doing tennis coaching as like as hobby?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Fair enough. And so this guy, you obviously got you into it, but I mean, did he give you any advice, education, or anything like that?
No, nope, not at all. That's only how I found out about the industry, and everything else was just 24/7 every day, like thousands of hours of just studying and trading from myself and figuring it out on my own.
And how did you figure it out? Because I've heard some great stories about people, discovering them stuff for themselves. I mean, how did you go about trying to unpick this market?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, obviously, like I said in the beginning, I was blowing a lot of accounts. I had a couple $100 accounts, lost those. A couple $1,000 accounts, I lost those. And, obviously, I had to figure out why I was losing. And it wasn't. So I basically ran into something called like the market makers trend. So I just kept on learning about like market makers, and it just kept on popping up. And through my studying and through everything, I figured out that that forex currencies, there's a lot of price manipulation, right? There's a lot of big banks controlling the price, moving the markets whenever they want, and these are market makers. And essentially, there's a way to kind of follow how market makers move price. And a lot of it is something called a stop hunt. And a stop hunt is basically an extremely volatile price movement to one side, just to induce traders to, let's say on Euro US dollar, typically they do this on London opening and New York opening, where right when those sessions open, they'll move the market, let's say, to the upside, and they'll use long candles, like 20 pip candles on the 15-minute time frame, and they'll kind of induce traders to make it look like it's breaking out. So they'll get traders to buy. And what market makers are just doing is they're creating more liquidity. They're getting traders to go in, buy that pair, and then once there's a lot of volume, they'll basically pull price away completely in the opposite direction, and they'll form an M pattern, and there's a lot of stop losses that they'll hit of retail traders just to gain more liquidity for themselves. And that's essentially, in a nutshell, when you see those crazy volatile price movements, right? They blame it on economic news, NFP and all this, but in reality, this is actually market makers releasing a lot of their liquidity and manipulating the price action. So
it's interesting. We've had the M&Ws mentioned on the show, I believe it once before, only once in this many interviews. And I mean, I funnily enough noticed them so much more now. And ironically, it fits quite nicely with the way I trade. And when I see them, I know that, okay, I've got a better chance of getting in this trade and it being a winner than if I don't. I mean, why did you sort of land on this? Out of there's so many different ways to obviously, trade. Why did you land on this one as the one that I think I've found it. This is the one. I'm not going to go any further.
I'll tell you quickly. Is because I was looking into it, and there's a lot of free resources that I found online about it. How they'll go 25 pips up, they'll do the M pattern, and then they'll reverse the price New York session. And I basically I didn't believe it, right? Because when you hear like, oh, the markets are rigged, big banks are just controlling price whenever they want. However, I didn't believe it, but when I actually went to my charts myself and I saw it with my own eyes, that was when I started to believe it, because I looked at the live price on my own charts, from yesterday or from a few days back, and I saw those M and W patterns, and I saw exactly how they'll spike at extremely volatile short-term moves, and then they'll go the opposite direction. I saw it with my own eye, and therefore that there's the truth right there. So, then I went for the next few years just mastering the strategy and trying to see what else I can find about these markets. And I learned a lot throughout those years. So anyone can go on their charts themselves right now, and they'll see on the 15-minute chart and on the 1 hour chart, on the 4 hour chart, they'll see M and W patterns.
Yeah, look, and you do see them, and it's funny, like, I don't know how many years I've been looking at charts for, but to then start seeing them regularly, and the fact that they do tend to be the start of a move, and if you can spot it early enough, you can get in there and make the most of it. So you sort of said that the last 2 years, that's when you've really sort of mastered this. I mean, was there a point in time where you were like, I suppose, where you flipped over from not really getting it or blowing accounts? What was the change? How did that sort of transition to becoming a master at this market makers method happen?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was really because so I initially then took like a few months off, and I didn't trade at all, and I was just demo trading at the time, and I was learning, and I was figuring out what my signature trade was going to be, and just making sure next time I start, I'm going to use risk management, and I'm going to really take this professionally, because trading is a business, and you should treat it like one, and not, go crazy with your account. So it was really just being a disciplined trader. And then I started with $3,000, which I actually borrowed from a family member, from my aunt specifically. Actually mentioned that in one of my other interviews too. And then after 8 months, I took that 3,000 into over six figures. And that was kind of, once I got to that point, six figures, that was when, I just continued on that path, and I just continued on growing my account, growing as a trader, continue to use risk management. And, after that, I didn't have any urge to take any massive positions on for no reason. And I just stayed disciplined. I just remained disciplined trader, and, now I'm here. So that was the big leap right there, is those 8 months. That was the leap.
Just jumping in here with a quick message from my sponsor, Sage Capital, who provide education software and tools needed to increase anyone's ability to trade more successfully. Perfect for people who are either still learning, too busy, or just want to use professional grade strategies to build passive income. They've achieved high returns with relatively low risk and are available for auto copying today. Go to sagecapital.co.uk and start auto trading today. And can you walk us through the 8 months? I mean, how many trades were you placing during that time? And how did you compound that $3,000?
Yeah, so I actually used a risk management calculator as well. So I was full on like professional, right? I was calculating no more than 2% per position, and I was kind of keeping track of all that. Typically, I learned to not trade every day as well, because you can't force trades. Not every day is a trading day. So, I mean, it was about one trade a day. I would trade during London session, and I would just trade those M&W patterns. Sometimes I would just trade with the trend as well. That's what I created dashboard for, was actually just hopping on those trends instead of having to wake up during London session. But they were typically intraday trades, 25, 30 pips, 40 pips. If it's pound pairs, maybe 60, 70 pips, depending on the day. But I'm waiting for those M&W patterns, London open. I take my trade. And when I'm satisfied, 20 pips, 30 pips, I'll close the trade and go to bed. Because for me, London session was, 2:30 in the morning. So I was waking up, and then I'd probably go to bed by like 5 in the morning after that one trade that I was looking for, the stop hunt during London session.
Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't realize that you guys had to get up so late to trade that London session, whereas I was thinking that I've got it bad over here. In fact, I've got it really good. It's like 6 to 7 p.m. at night to do London,
wow.
which is awesome. I mean, but when I had young kids, it was no good because that was witching hour where they needed a lot of attention. Now, so what is your so you created this thing called dashboard. Now let's just touch on that, and what we'll do is we'll explain this more in the video. We'll go and have a look at it. So how did you come up with it, and what does it do?
Yeah, so basically the story is that I was initially going from those intraday trades, waking up during London, and there's something called, in the market makers method, the strategy that I trade, there's something called market maker trends or market maker cycles, and these are basically like 3 to 5 day trends, or sometimes more. They're basically the real trend in the market, and I figured if I can just ride these trends, so if I can just place swing trades and ride these trends for hundreds of pips as a swing trade, that's really all I needed to do, because I wanted to have more free time. I wanted to kind of be more relaxed. So I started on creating, putting all the criteria from what I've learned in the past 6 years of my career, all the different patterns and criteria that create a market maker cycle, which is quite complex. And I got a team of developers, and I initially coded this for myself. It was just a standard MetaTrader 4 indicator, just for my own trading. And eventually, I gave this tool. So I started using it on MetaTrader 4 for myself, had a lot of success with it. I gave it to my students who are struggling with still understanding the market maker trends and understanding how to, how to find them and how to trade them. So, and I told them this tool automates that completely. It does it for you with really high accuracy. So I gave it to them, and they just, their reactions was priceless. It changed their trading career, and they basically begged me to make it public, because they said that it would just help a lot of traders, because, one of the huge things that traders struggle with is identifying the direction, whether to buy or sell, obviously, right?
Yeah.
So, I was okay with that, and I knew that this was my thing to do. This was my awakening to innovate in this industry, right? To make it better, to get rid of the scams, and to just have something that a professional tool that everyone will enjoy, a universal tool, something that helps with direction. So I went ahead and composed that from my students begging me to do it, and so I turned it into a software that that you can basically subscribe to, and you get everything, but in a much upgraded version than my old MetaTrader 4 indicator. This is completely on our own servers, and it's just a whole atmosphere of traders. We got thousands of traders in the community. We have full-time analysts who are using Dashboard full-time professionally, and they're actually sending out trade ideas. And so, in a way, I believe that I've already changed the industry, and it's just getting better, and so much feedback. So just trying to spread the word out there, help other traders.
It is interesting, because I think it is one of the biggest issues facing any sort of new trader or aspiring trader is trying to pick the overall trend or overall direction correctly. And because if you don't get that correctly, right, and you start to look for a 3-to-1 trade, your odds are already pretty much screwed. You might get 1-to-1 if you're lucky, or even anything above 1-to-1, you're sort of really you're pushing, right? Because now you're going against the overall trend. So this, I mean, I've had a look at it the last few days. I've only had a brief look at it, but from what I can see, it looks like a very well put together tool that could help a lot of guys who do struggle with trend. And as I said, we'll have a look at that again in a video, and we'll get that up on the YouTube channel. So not for the podcast, but so what I want to do is jump away from that now and talk a little bit about you using, I guess you're using the tool still, or maybe you're not, because you know what goes on behind it. But what does your trading look like these days? I mean, how many trades are you taking a week?
Yeah, I'm taking like 1 to 2 trades a week now. So definitely a lot more filtered, just because I have a lot less time on my hands, just because I'm doing a lot of things now. And so I've set it up. I usually take my trades during Asian session now, right after the dashboard updates. So the dashboard updates once a day. It's at the end of New York session on a new day. And I'll wait for that. So that's going to be 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's my time. And I'll take a look at the charts during Asian session around 7 p.m. my time. I'll scan the currencies. I'll choose 1 to 2 best currencies via the dashboard. And I'll have my trade ready for those. And I'll typically, nowadays, I don't really even wait for a pattern anymore, just because, from so many years of trading, you get to see those patterns with your own eye, and you're trained to see those patterns in the structure. So I place my trade, I set my stop loss, my take profits, and I just really just depend on dashboard nowadays. So it's 1 to 2 trades. Typically try to do more of like a swing trade. And I check my trade like once a day. I'm not one of those aggressively people who check their profits like every 10 seconds because they're trading so big. I'm sure you've ran into that before.
Well, I've ran into it myself.
Yeah.
So what about like risk to reward on that? How does that usually play out for you?
Yeah. I typically try to go for at least 1 to 2. So one risk and two profit. But for me, I don't really depend too much on it. So I'm not very particular about it. So I'm not going to, if it's going to be like a 1 to 2 or 1 to 3, I'm not really going to make a decision based off of that if everything else lines up in terms of the direction and, if I do get on a pattern or not. So typically it's always a positive risk reward ratio, but I'm not too particular.
And what about like winning percentage? How often do you win out of those 1 to 2 trades?
Yeah, I would say it's mostly all of them winning, as crazy as that sounds. It's typically most of them. Now, I do have losing trades, of course, but it's definitely like a lot more. Like I would say probably like 80% if I were to put a ratio on it. And obviously, if 80%, if you have a high risk reward ratio, it's really good numbers.
And when you're placing your stop, because I think that's obviously quite key here, how do you find a location to put that stop that you feel that it won't get hit, given the fact you're sort of going in Asia and you're just relying on the dashboard for the trend and you're just letting sort of things play out. How do you identify a spot?
Oh, so I'll just use the dashboard. So I'll just put it above or below the peak formation, right? So if I made a peak formation low, then I'll just put the stop loss below that, the bottom of that trend, wherever dashboard indicates.
Okay, because you're entering quite early on in the trend, aren't you?
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So I know that if dashboard says that this is a new locked-in trend, I'll just put the stop below that trend and let that trend ride out.
Yeah. So guys, just so you know, so there's like about, I don't know how many pairs there are. It looks like there's maybe 30 pairs on this dashboard, and you'll be able to correct me. And you basically sort by the ones that have got the newest established trends, and then so therefore the trend might only be 1 or 2 days old. So therefore you can put your stop quite close to the where that trend got established, which you can see on the chart. And whereas some are like 10 days into the trend or 5 or 4 days into the trend, so you're steering clear of those and you're going for the sort of the easy pickings of new trend started, let's get in, tight stop, start of the trend, unlikely to come back, and then your 2 to 1's pretty simple. Okay, nicely done.
Yep.
Really simple stuff. So okay, cool. And we know how many instruments you're trading. And so when you're actually doing your own analysis on the charts, are you looking at any specific time frames, or are you just you don't need?
I'm looking at 1 hour. 1 hour time frame and the 4 hour time frame. So I'm more longer time frames.
Okay, cool. And like thinking about your journey up to where you are now, like, what do you think made you different from somebody else who's gone in and, you know, they're either working a day job or they're just a mum or dad trader out there trying to get into this game? What do you think made you different?
Well, I think, honestly, it's my ability to adapt to, you know, where we're at in the markets right now. It's 2020. I would say, like, honestly, 70% of the market, maybe 80% of the entire market is now quantitative, right? There's a lot of algorithmic trading going on with big banks. There's a lot of hedge funds that are now implementing AI algorithms. They're not even touching a single button anymore. They're not trading manually. So it was my adaptation to adapt to these new markets, and so I was able to understand this, and so I put that into consideration, and that's why, you know, that's why I create a dashboard as well, because I know where the market's going with, you know, I know the future of the markets. So I always listen to my dashboard. I always listen to my rules. So I'm somebody who never goes against my rules, and I think that's what kept my discipline as well. In those 8 months that I did those six-figure numbers, it was the discipline, like I said, and that's because if I have rules, I never go against those rules.
And do you think, like, when this is something that's come up in the last couple of interviews, and I'm just wondering if it's a common theme here. Do you think when you've sort of made that much profit on a balance that you know you're now playing with profit and you're no longer sort of, I suppose, emotionally attached to that money, is it easier to then just not get rid of some of those emotions that traders might be experiencing?
Oh yeah, that's probably one of the biggest benefits that us full-time traders have, is that it's not like if this trade doesn't go our way, you know, I don't have money for rent, right? That's the mindset that you'll almost like never make it. It's so hard, and the fact that, you know, I place my position, I use my risk management. Even using risk management, you know, that trade is enough for me to be full-time. And I have absolutely no emotions, because I know that the worst thing that can happen is I'll lose like 2% of my account balance, which is like nothing. You know, I'll make that back on the next trade. But for others, you know, it's even hard, like trouble even sleeping sometimes. I remember when I had to rely on that income from trading, and it's sleepless nights. So it's a huge advantage.
Yeah. I thought it was, because it's come up in the last interview, one I did yesterday, and I was like, I wonder if that's a common sort of thing where you get to that point where you've made that profit. I know that some people just will destroy it because they just get the greed kicks in, but eventually they get there and they go, okay, well, now I've made that much money, I'm not going to lose it again. If I just trade 2%, that's all I need. I don't need to be greedy. Now, what about if somebody was working a day job? How would you sort of give them a roadmap to get into becoming a successful trader?
Yeah. So I would definitely recommend them to trade like, for example, if you're in the States, I would recommend to probably try to trade maybe Asian session, or try to trade a session where you're available, depending on if you're doing intraday. Like if you're a 9 to 5, it's going to be hard for you to trade New York session because you're at a job in the morning. So I'd recommend you find the best time to trade. And I'd also recommend, like, you know, figure out a strategy that doesn't require you to look at the 1 minute chart. Rather, try swing trading, something where it's more of a long-term trade. That way there's less stress to it. You know, so I would say try to aim for bigger time frames for sure to get into it.
Nice. Okay, cool. And what about looking at a chart? I mean, what things would you recommend somebody start studying on a price chart?
Yeah, for sure. Just candlesticks, naked charts, candlestick patterns. Look for doji candles. Look for bullish, bearish, engulfing candles. Learn the basic fundamentals of the candlesticks, and that's going to go a long way, especially if you have a method of determining direction, then you can go into smaller time frames, maybe like the 1 hour time frame, and you can just really trade based off of candlestick patterns combined with a direction. It's very accurate. Really, that's all you need, and that's typically how I started, and it's the way to go. Really, it's candlesticks, naked charts. It's the best for beginners.
It's interesting, because it's something that I've heard in the past. Like, some people will just swear by it and go, oh, these candlesticks patterns work, and others have come in and gone, no, the candlestick patterns are just bollocks. They don't work. These are just sort of retail thinking, and all this sort of stuff. I mean, is it a case of I know they can work, right? They can work, but the percentage is probably quite low on a raw, just looking at the candlesticks alone. So are you saying that with the dashboard and knowing the trend, all of a sudden they become a lot more powerful?
A lot more powerful. This is the way I always tell traders is, look, there's two ways. There's two ways to be a successful trader. There's two things that you must have. Number one is direction. You need to know which direction. Are you buying or are you selling? And number two, where are you entering? Timing, right? Timing or / entry. What's your entry criteria? Why are you entering even though it's bullish? So you combine dashboard, it gives you the direction. Number one is checked off. Number two, let's say you see a W pattern. There's your number two. There's your entry criteria. Boom, you enter in on that W pattern. Dashboard told you it's bullish, and right there you have a full strategy, and that's exactly what I do. So right there, as you can see, going from just candlesticks, combining it with dashboard, you have a complete strategy.
Nice. Right. So what about a mindset? So there's obviously the getting into a trade and all that sort of stuff, but do you have any tips or techniques that you've come across in your 6 years that have helped with your mindset, or may help somebody else with their mindset?
Yeah, I think for sure mindset is like the most important, and so here's a few tips that I've learned along the way is always pay yourself something. So this I actually learned this from another trader as well, is okay, so let's say you have any account balance, it doesn't matter what it is, something substantial, and let's say you're generating profits every single week, you're positive. I would recommend, one is pay yourself a little bit, withdraw some of those profits, and buy something physical that you can put on your desk and that you can look at every day to remind yourself that slowly you're doing a great job and you're making profits, you're making progress in your trading career, and you bought something from those profits, and let's say it could even be like, I bought myself one of those Wall Street Bulls, and it was like a gold statue, like a 5-pound gold statue, and I put it on my desk, and every time I looked at it, it reminded myself like I bought this with trading profits. So it keeps you in a positive mindset. I think that's a really big tip that helped me.
Yeah, I like that. I think I saw that in your video for some reason, or somewhere I saw that bull on your desk. Now, what about recommending? Actually, I really like that tip. It's a really good tip, and it's something that I've never done, so I might actually think about doing it. Now, what about if you had to recommend somebody spend the next month mastering something? What would it be?
Yeah, I think. Yeah, that's a tough one. I would say, so would this be a brand new trader that knows nothing about the markets?
This could be just somebody either brand new or just something that you think is worthwhile going off and studying.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would recommend that you do look into market makers, and you do at least kind of do more research in terms of I would say understand the markets a little bit better, maybe understand a little bit like what market makers, what role they have in the markets. I would also recommend reading a few books, but honestly, I think every trader's like development and figuring out, their path to success is so unique. I've met a lot of traders who never read any trading books before, and then I have another friend who has read like all of the books, like Market Wizards. There's a lot of like good trading books out there for mindset. But honestly, I would just say get started now, and have the charts opened. Start demo trading. Just start trading. It doesn't matter if you're trading real money, if you're trading demo, but you just have to do it. And the longer you trade, regardless if it's real or not, you're just going to get in the habit of it. You're going to train your eyes to see the patterns. And like I said, it took me 4 years. And then those last 2 years was when I took off, to where most traders want to be. So it's a long-term thing. It's not overnight. If you think about it, a doctor goes to school for, 10 years of their life, to make that salary. Do you think that as a trader, you'll make a doctor's salary in 1 month? I don't think so. So it's a long-term thing, and just keep at it. That's kind of to summarize, for the next month, what they should do,
And guys, if you're looking for a starting point there, I mean, we got some great advice in a recent show with a trader called Jacob, who I don't think he uses this method, but it's similar. And his advice was just to go onto Google, type in Market Makers Method, and then go to the Images tab, and you will find, and I've just done it here myself, you'll find a whole bunch of images explaining how it works. And you can just go through those and sort of work it out yourself. So it's a nice little tip to get you guys educated up on this stuff pretty quickly. Now, we're going to jump into the quickfire round here. Nick, so how long did it take you to go from newbie to consistently profitable?
3 to 4 years.
What's your favorite entry setup?
My favorite entry strategy, you said?
Or entry setup?
That would be a M or W pattern on the 1 hour time frame.
What strategies do you use to exit or manage trades?
So my exit strategies is typically at a support or resistance zone, and that's where I'll take my profits. And that's typically it, and then I'll put my stop loss to break even after I hit a certain amount of pips to secure that trade.
What's your recommended trading book or resource?
I would recommend Baby Pips for beginners. Go through their free education school, babypips.com.
Do you have a preferred broker and trading platform?
Trading platform, MetaTrader 4. Got to stick with that. And broker, I do recommend the most regulated Forex brokers. So Oanda, Forex.com, just to be safe.
Do you want to walk us through your worst ever trade?
Worst ever trade? That would be, this was actually one of the first trades. So I think I lost, at the time, there was like $4,000 on one trade in like 30 minutes. It was a gold trade. I was shorting gold, and it was like a 300 pip move to the upside, and I lost like $4,000, and that was like my whole account. Yeah.
If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be?
It would be think like a market maker. Don't think like a retail trader.
Nice. Well, look, before we wrap up, what's the best way for the traders to get hold of you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, it's at Market Makers Method. And then we have a YouTube channel as well. We have a lot of free educational videos there. That's Market Makers Method as well. And then marketmakersmethod.com, and you can learn more about some of our student success and really just take a look at a dashboard, changing the whole industry.
Cool. Well, look, a big thank you to Nick for sharing with us today. Everything we've discussed here, along with all the links, are in the show notes. To find them, simply search for Nick in the search box on tradingnut.com. Until next time, I wish all my listeners trading happiness and success. Okay, folks, hope you got a ton of value out of that interview there with Nick. Now, do remember, there should be a coupon code you can use to get his Market Makers Method dashboard. I've had a play with it. It looks really good. There's a number of ways you can trade it, and the funny thing is, what Nick has shown us in a video that you can go and watch if you want. We recorded it after this interview, an exact method on trading, his Market Makers Method, and you could use it with anything really, but he's got an entry method that you can use with it, which goes hand in hand. So guys, go and check that out. Link underneath the in the podcast player if you're on your phone, or somewhere on the, actually should be on the page if you're on the site, and if you're watching on YouTube, how are you going to find this? Oh, look, it'll be the next video that comes up. All right, okay folks, thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next one.